Okay, this video is to help you with tonight's homework. Do not watch and just copy it all down. The intent is for you to pause, try it yourself, and then watch the solutions. If you get stuck, you can watch up until the point that you're stuck, and then keep trying yourself. Our test next week you have to do independently, so you should be able to do these 4 steps plus all the other properties we've discussed before that test. So A talks about wholes, and I need to know if any factors divide by 1. In number 1, there are no factors that divide, so there are no wholes. For B, the vertical asymptote is when the denominator equals 0. I'm going to solve that. X equals -7. Now for horizontal and slant asymptotes, in class we were given these 3 criteria for how to decide if there is what the horizontal and slant asymptotes are. We compare the degrees. That's the highest exponent of the numerator and denominator. Well, there is no x in the numerator, so 0 is smaller than this exponent of 1. So 0 is smaller than 1. The horizontal asymptote is y equals 0, and there is no slant asymptote, because that only happens when the numerator degree is greater than the denominator degree. You have to memorize these 3 criteria, make flashcards, write them over and over again, whatever you have to do to memorize them. For number 2, I see that the numerator can factor if I divide out a 3, but that gets me nowhere with the denominator. I can't divide any of those factors. So there's no wholes. The vertical asymptote is when the denominator equals 0, and that's at x equals 1/2. Then I'm going to compare my degrees. The 1 is equal to the 1. So when the numerator degree equals the denominator degree, the horizontal asymptote is the division of the coefficients. So that's 3 divided by 2. There's no slant asymptote. Now in number 3, we have a whole. This one's already factored for us. So our whole is at the value that makes the canceled factor 0. So when is x minus 2 0? That's at 2. I need a y value. Once I reduce my equation and I divide away the whole, I'm left with x plus 3 over x minus 4. To get the y value, I'm going to take the 2 and substitute that into my remaining equation. And I get -5 over 2 as a y value. For a vertical asymptote, the only remaining factor is x minus 4 in the denominator. So that's x equals 4. Now my degrees are equal, the 1 and the 1 exponent. So my horizontal asymptote is the division of coefficients. That's 1. There is no slant asymptote. Now for 4, I'm going to factor the numerator myself to see if there's a whole. So what multiplies to -20 that adds to 1 is going to be +5 and -4. So we have a whole. What makes x minus 4 0 is 4. And when I substitute that into the remaining equation, I get 9 as the y value. Now I have a line left. There's no asymptotes for a line, so for B, C, and D, the answer are none, because x plus 5 is just a line. Now for 5, so the numerator factors, that's a factor by grouping. Oops, sorry about that. So let me see if it gets me anywhere, because we haven't really reviewed that. So x to the third and 2x squared can divide by x squared. And negative x and 2 have a common factor of 1. And then I can regroup. So since these factors are the same, I can take x squared minus 1 times x minus 2. And then this is a difference of 2 squares, so that's x plus 1, x minus 1, x minus 2 as a numerator. And then the denominator is a difference of 2 squares, so I can factor those conjugates as well. Oh, we have a hole. The number that makes x minus 2 equal to 0 is 2. And then when I substitute that back in, let's see, that's 3 times 1, that's 3/4 as a y value. For the vertical asymptote, that's at x equals negative 2. And then, let me go back over here. My reduced equation is now x plus 1 times x minus 1 over x plus 2. So if I multiply the numerator back together, x times negative 1, 1 times x, 1 times negative 1. To put this equation back in standard form, I now have a degree in the numerator that is bigger than the degree in the denominator. The numerator is bigger than the denominator. I have to divide. So part C, there is no horizontal asymptote, but I will have a slant. I'm going to do long division. I like to hold the spot of any missing term. And now I say x squared divided by x is x. Multiply it back. Subtract the whole line. Bring down. Negative 2x divided by x is negative 2. Multiply it back. And I don't really care about the remainder. My slant asymptote is at y equals x minus 2. Oops, sorry, I was writing in those answers. So I wrote the none and the x minus 2. And then last but not least, I know that nothing from my numerator will divide away with the denominator. This x cubed, there's no factor of x cubed in the numerator, so I'm not going to bother to factor. For A, there's no holes. For B, when does x cubed equal 0? That's at x equals 0. The numerator degree is bigger than the denominator degree, so there is no horizontal asymptote, but I will have a slant. Here we go for some long division again. X to the 4th divided by x to the 3rd is x. And I like to line up my common terms, and then I multiply it back, subtract, bring down. Zero x to the 3rd divided by x to the 3rd is 0. Oops, sorry. And now the remainder doesn't matter to me. Here's my slant asymptote of y equals x.